Hello to everyone. Welcome to the new episode of our podcast. Today, my co-host Igor Tomych and me, we will present a very interesting topic and our topic is building the high performance tech teams in Fintech. Jesus, we'll have a lot of discussions with this team. Hello, Igor.
Hello, Dumitru, and it's nice to hear a lot of tech as a word. And I think it's a kind of holy war topic, as you mentioned before. So let's see. Potentially, we're going to discuss it for one episode, but we might extend to severals. So let's start. Let's kick off with it. What do you think about this topic?
Well, topic is great. When we have our offline calls or meetings with Igor, we all the time touch the topic of teams, and you will see also in our previous episodes. Quite often, we also touched a little bit the topic of teams, like what's the most important in a team, what's the most important to build in tech team, and so on. But today we'll dedicate it fully for our. And I think we have to start from definition of roles. A tech team, a good tech team has to have a good definition of roles, a good definition of responsibilities. Me as an operational manager, I'm putting the accent all the time on the job description. A lot of people are telling me, like, why are you doing this job description? Well, when you are a startup, it's okay. But when you are ready for scale up, or you are sustainable company, you need very good job description. We need to understand who is doing what, who is responsible for what. By the way, in PCI DSS accreditation, you have a separate document of roles and responsibilities. And this is not just because someone just invented this. This is because it's very important. Let's start with roles and responsibilities.
I would split it into two buckets because one is something that you're communicating while you're looking for the people. But as a company, as Dash Devs, we have this job description. Like if someone in the company need to find an expert out there, we have the page or template, which is called job description. But it starts even earlier with the position profile because within the company, and that kind of follows the logic of PCI DSS compliance, corporate structure should be visible. It should be defined. It should have position profiles. And in our company, we follow the position profiles with the two items. First one is really and super crucial is zones of responsibilities, like what this person is going to do. It's kind of what I'm accountable for. And in those accountable zones, you go in with the task, like what you need to do, who is input supplier, what is the input for the task, what is the output of the task, and who is output supplier. So that's kind of zones of responsibilities. And that kind of reminds me of the talk that we had with Anna Kovalenko. So we discussed a little bit. And the second, also really critical part is the key competences.
Yes.
Because by having someone who is capable to perform a specific task, it doesn't mean that this person has the capacity or the capabilities. And those capabilities are quite universal. If you go to any HR consulting or even go into, I don't know, ChatGPT and some kind of exploring internet, you will find out that this list is pretty like limited. It has 150 different competences like accountability or strategical thinking or business understanding. And then I think that's become really important document for defining what you expect as a company from a specific person. And then you can use it as a scale. Like you can come to someone who is a nice person, who has a pretty cool expertise, but say, okay, actually, we are looking to, under our position profile, you need to do A, B things, but also we're expecting to do the D and E, F things. What do you think about that? And that becomes really good definition. And what I really value is prediction. Like everyone in prediction, what this person is expected to do and what company thinks this position should be functioning as.
In your mind, after having job description and having the position prepared, and you start recruiting and you have candidates, what's the most important? Soft skills or hard skills in front?
Let's define who are we talking about.
Technical.
Because I would say there are linear engineers, there is a middle management, and there is C-level. And those are completely three different recruiting processes. So let's pick up one. Who are we talking
Linear.
about?
Let's start with linear.
If we're talking about the engineers, usually I think the most critical part is the hard skills, because those persons, they are built into the process as a gear. Like if you have well-defined business process, it doesn't mean that this person is not taking accountability or doesn't understand the business, but their function is pretty linear. And with the engineer, let's say someone who is working with the components, crucial components for the fintech access, I don't know, ledger system, payment collection, budget execution, something like that. What I'm looking for as a company and what is usually in our position profiles is the hard skills, because you need to understand how the infrastructure works. Like we had a lot of even inexperienced issues on the production, which are even potentially leading to financial losses because people didn't understand the technology that it used. Like even with the queues, it's simple example with the fintech. You have a bunch of clients doing something, and then you're putting those order into the queue. And the complexity is in the cloud infrastructure that you usually have a redundancy. You have the data in orders in multiple places. And you need to have the queue where you put in the things once or several times, but it's executed from this queue only once, like a top up. You cannot update the balance of the top up several times, because instead of one payment, the customer will receive two top ups when in reality they executed once. And to properly have those skills which are working as required technically, you need to have hard skills. And I would not compromise the business understanding. Someone, I don't know, who has 10 years in IML, fraud detection, whatever, but has poor technical skills, because in the first place, this person, according to the position profile, is going to write the code to make sure that it's fully compliant with the business needs and there is no gaps between execution or edge cases or risks that are mitigated in the technology. So short answer, hard skills.
I don't agree with you.
That's cool.
Well, hard skills for linear engineers are very important. I once had an opportunity to meet a person with whom I worked, and that person told me one thing, very important thing, and he inserted the thing in the company's value. When we start to work with you, we start with 100% credit, trust credit. So for me, it's more important to have a person who fits under the culture of my company than a person who is a very skilled, strong strong hard skills, but cannot communicate because, for example, communication is a part of a company's culture. And I was looking at him like, nah. Okay, C-level managers, yeah, but developers, come on. I mean, we need a guy, strong guy who can, I don't know, build or make a refactoring from at that moment. By the way, we had this issue. We had to refactor to rewrite everything from monolith to microservices. Like, who cares if a developer who is good in Docker and he or Kubernetes, he can speak or not with you? I mean, there's a filter, managers and CTO. But he said, no, I need that person to be with grosso modo, like normal skills, because sometimes I will need to go down to him and escape, overpass the filters of CTO or to ask him directly what's happening, what you're struggling with, so on. And it took a little bit of time, and I understood that, well, I think he's right, and now I share the same thing. I think, well, I'll be like 50%, 50-50. So hard skills and soft skills has to be for linear manager, has to be at the same level.
Manager or developer? Because we're talking
Linear
about the developer.
developers,
Okay.
correct. Team leads, 70% like soft skills, for sure. CTO, 90% soft skills. But linear developers, for me, it's important to have soft skills. Recently, I had for a company I'm consulting, there was a situation when the CTO was overwhelmed and they are passing the PCI DSS. So he delegated the project to team lead DevOps engineer. And the team lead had very smart guy. He said from the beginning, said like, Dima, I have an issue with communication. I'm not so good at communication. I can do the work job really great, and I honestly will say that he's very great in what he's doing. And we start to work with him on developing communication skills, and it's super simple. Like I ask him, "What's your problem with communication? Do you don't like to talk, or you don't like to write?" Like I don't want to talk. I want to write. Okay, give update in Slack or email report wherever once a day, once a month, once a week. Give updates, and nobody will touch you. And write more humanized text from dev English to normal English. That's it. Like, oh, I can do this. And in just a second, we transform the guy from low soft skills to normal soft skills. The management was happy, like, well, we don't have time. I mean, C-level management, we don't have a lot of time to speak with him all the day, but for us, it's sufficient to receive his report. So, soft skills are important. Yes, I know that I'm mentioning about team lead, but he became team lead like right now. I mean, several weeks before, and for him, it was very important.
I have not an objection, but let's explore on another angles, because what you're talking about is actually the specific functionality, because you cannot show a hard skill or a soft skill with no time. It's not about reporting. And I would approach a different level. You asked what is more important. And I think you cannot hire a developer who is not efficient and proficient with the engineering, because the really first reason to hire someone who can do Terraform, who can deploy to infrastructure, who can make sure that the code works and implement the digital product in the technical way that is sufficient for the business. So it's first gate. But then another gate that we do in the company, it's cultural match. It's not really the soft skill match. It's a cultural. And I think we deliberately should split those two, because that the case what you're talking about. Because within one company, the efficiency comes from the speaking same language, as you can name it. Like we all value the results over the communication, or we all value closed deadlines rather than quality, or stuff like that. And different levels should share it, because if you build in the company with the specific level, I don't know, on the C level specific values, and then underneath middle management is playing by other rules and values, and then the linear engineers or the team is playing by other values, it will go crash. Because if the company is saying, okay, we into open communication, we into education, and the C level is educating, properly communicating what is going on, it works two ways throughout, because as a C level, you communicate into the middle management, you're communicating to the whole company. But if the middle management is not used and not sharing those values, instead of saying, guys, we did the fuck up, we actually didn't implement something right, and we need to take the budget, we need to take the time to re-implement the thing, and middle management can come up with the report saying, I don't know, that was a hiccup on the vendor side. Everything is good on our side. We can go into production with no time. We are not expecting any issues in our production. And then it will go bust, because the transparency, the value is not shared. And the same goes with the linear, because if the company and linear developer is sharing the transparency, like we did the audit of the system or the part of the product, which is not sufficient for us to be in the production environment, because certain things are not solvable the way how the design of the product is done. And I think if it's shared on all the levels, then it's much easier to communicate. And I think that's a little bit because I came from engineering side, like I used to develop. And that's what I see in my experience is really important, because people in words they saying that they values they following certain values, but they do not by actions. And when I'm saying the cultural match is following the values into the actions, because if the, let's say, management, C level or middle management is about the transparency, then they should not be any issues with the, I don't know, firing someone when they brought the bad news.
Agree.
And that's what I think which is happening here. You might have an engineer who was matched culturally to company. Like the person who was understanding what is the expectations from the values from the C level, from the management, the moment he was highlighted. Like, We expect transparency. We would like to have the report, which is highlighting that and that. He's actually already sharing it. He just didn't know the instrument or the procedure how to express his value as transparency to another level. And that's what you showed. Like, okay, let's do the reporting. You don't need to talk. That because talking or even writing reports is soft skill. Like as an engineer, for me personally, it took years to understand why communicating to the middle management with the reporting, with the bulky emails highlighting what are the issues, how they're going to be solved, as much as important as of writing code. That's a soft skill. It takes time. So I think if we're coming back to building the tech team, you need to properly understand three levels, like what hard skills you expect, what soft skills you expect, and what cultural match. Because you might have people who are fitting as a hard skills. You might have people who are fitting into the soft skills. They can do the narrative, they can do the storytelling, they can manage, they can organize, but their values are different. Because your values is to get to the product with the less budget, with the less time to the market, because you're result oriented. And there is a process guy who is interested in doing the process and maybe, let's say, a little bit narcissist. Like, I'm the best person, I'm the best organizer, but nothing get done in time, nothing get done within the budget. And that's a difference in values. So I think those three levels is three-dimensional chess. And if you take a look on this play this way, then it better clicks what worked and why not and why.
And what about middle management? I mean, team leads.
That's really good question. And in our company experience and what I see working well in other companies is a T-shaped persons. Because as a tech lead or a team lead, you still keeping your hands dirty with the technology. Like it's not possible to go away from the hard skills because the soon the manager, middle manager, like operational manager, who is on the daily basis working with a specific technology or a specific team, losing the touch with the reality, like what the code does, how it's implemented, what is it the business issue that we're solving, what is the best way to solve it. Then this person is losing the visibility and the control over the team and overall result. Like my go-to example is usually it's by being a guide in art gallery by being blind. Like you will not explain the difference between Monet and Manet. Like both are paintings, both are smelling, but what do you see? You cannot see it yourself. So I think in this case, my expectation and my experience that if we're talking about the middle management, it's someone who got their roots from the linear level by acquiring those skills and hard skills, but then is open and sharing the value to grow and add the soft skills. And the usual path in Dash Devs is kind of I'm a, let's say, backend engineer. I know how to code. I was a junior. I wrote a lot of code. Then I grew to a specific level. As a senior, then I'm taking a really deep thought. What is my career path? And there are only two ways. Like you can start extend horizontally as a technology person. Okay, I know the backend. I will jump into AWS. I will jump into infrastructure. Well, I will do the front end. But there is a portion of people who are thinking, like, can I add the hard skills to manage other people to get the same things done, but with the scale? And if it clicks, at this moment, this person is deliberately understanding I can become the manager, so I can learn how to talk with people, how to motivate, how to coach. And actually, with engineers, it's happening even earlier because in engineering, there is a lot of practicing as a mentor or coach for engineers. So from day one, as a junior, you have someone from the technical team who's saying, okay, show me your pull request and I will explain why it should not be into the production. So those people exist. They share this value by doing more by scale. And then those people are becoming the middle managers who are operating within the companies or the teams to get the things on the several level as management of the group of people and as a hard skill result. Like, okay, we are developing a payment orchestration platform, and we need to develop an IML tool which is facilitating the specific stuff in our project. And as a hard skill person, I'm taking accountability to understand that that's something that we're going to implement for the business process. But also as a manager, I'm taking accountability for the group to make sure that they motivated, they properly understand the mission for this project, they're properly and in time and within the budget implemented this product.
Unfortunately, I will agree here with you. Unfortunately, because It's much better when, discussion. But I will add here. You mentioned in several moments. You mentioned about the managers, how people becoming managers. It's very important to have a very well defined review process with very well defined keys when a person from linear developer gets to be a manager. What means to be a manager? I think guys from human resource will like our discussion today, but um, it's very important to have this matrix. Like the linear developers can be separated into three levels. Linear team leads or managers, technical managers can be separated into three layers. And which layer means what? Because in this case, when you're doing review, for you as a reviewer of a salary, for example, or promotion, it's for you it's just checklist. Can you communicate well or not? Can you do this or not? And now let's move to the last and the not least, but the most important, CTO. And what are the main skills for CTO?
Oh, it's a topic for hours, I think, because if we have those tech leads, team leads as a position, and they tackling and covering the hard skill process, like of creating, because engineering, you can take a look on this as a writing, like or scripting for the theater. And I think the process is like, okay, we want something cool that people who are coming to our theater will enjoy. And then you need to write the script. That's a code. And when you're talking about, okay, you need to write a dialogue for person A, person B, it's quite clear. But if we're talking about CTO, usually they're dealing with a quite ill-defined problem. Like we need to do something to entertain our people who are coming into the theater, but there is no clear definition what exactly it does. And I know, and in practice, there are a lot of other stakeholders who are helping with this. Product owners, product managers, maybe even business development departments, because they can say, okay, our clients are struggling with that and that, then we can improve our product or build. And I think that CTO or sometimes even VP of engineering is really, really hard wired position because it requires several hard skills, I would say. Because business understanding is a hard skill. You need to understand the core nature of the business model of the company.
Yes.
You need to help to define it because usually it kind of somewhere in the air, but it's not fully written down. Like I have seen so many products, digital products, which has outlined product shelf. So it's a simple stuff from the product perspective. Like we have product A, product B, product C. Our hero product is product B, and that's why we're funneling our clients into, I don't know, buying bones. That's one part because as a CTO, you need to have really good and modern understanding of business models, how those business models are in technical or in digital product are implemented in your specific case. And then you need to kind of play the role between those two hard skills is to be a promoter and in the same time the limiter like for the processes or the projects which are not worth, because sometimes you have a lot of ways to implement certain things, and sometimes I think what is defining good CTO, it's someone who's saying no to technical projects, because it's quite easy as being technical person to say, oh, we need to rewrite everything, we have a lot of technical depths, we cannot survive. And that's a sign that you're not quite there as a CTO, because the CTO, that's a person who's saying, we have a lot of technical depths, but within this limited budget, we can bring this business to this level by utilizing certain approaches, shortcuts, and thinking out of the box to bring the business to the new level. So one of the definition for myself for CTO, it's someone who, with the limitation, still achieves the business goals.
Does the CTO has to come from the vertical of being a developer, or a CTO can come from the vertical being a DevOps or QA?
My vision that CTO should come from the literacy of coding. So coding, I would say it's two-way process. One, you need to have a skill to write the code, but another level, you need to read the code. And I think for CTO, it's not so important to have a skill to write the code, but you should be proficient and efficient with reading the code. Because a lot of cases then when I've seen where the business is not effective due to the communication between different levels, like middle management or I don't know, project manager might say, come, you know, oh, I even have a case from practice. So I have a tech lead who is coming for me and saying that we cannot actually submit the new version of our application to online store because we're using third-party tool which is not compliant with the recent requirements of the store, so it's not accepted there. And I said, it's not really true because this vendor is actually used in hundreds and hundreds thousands of the customers or applications outside there. So people are using this piece of the software to facilitate their business process. And from my experience, it doesn't look like if everyone else gets their application approvals, we cannot get our approved. And the person said, nah, they manual and the technology support process is kind of murky. We cannot understand what to do. And I said, okay, let's do it with me as a CTO. I have a proficiency. I can read the technology. I will not code for you, but I can work as a yellow duck. There is a really nice technique from engineers, yellow duck. I will talk about it later. So let's sit together. Let's go step by step of the process how you are submitting application. And it's a Friday night. So Friday evening, if we will not get this application approved, then on Monday we will come up with the plan A. Because by default, this tech person and kind of manager, he proposed to actually to rewrite this code by utilizing the backend engineer's effort. So you have something on the mobile and you need to replace it. And the story is that instead of fixing the bug, which potentially takes a couple of, or I don't know, 10 of hours, we actually need to re-implement the whole functionality 200 plus hours by using backend engineer. So you kind of coming up with another efforts from the team. And we did this job together. We went to the store, we clicked proper tickets, we properly configured the build. He did it himself, but I was checking. And then we submitted. And guess what? On Saturday, the build was approved. And I think that's a really good case when you're relying on someone's opinion. It's good that you need to build the team which is properly communicating all the things. But sometimes by being more experienced and more business driven, you might come up with other solutions. So as a CTO, I said, no, we're not going to implement because it's a lot of effort. I have a budget. I cannot burn hours by just not really caring or not having experience how to fix that issue. And then we fix it in half an hour. So it's just reviewing, and it's really, really good example that CTO should constantly challenge the technical team about the approach in terms of the budget and spending for the specific issue. Believe me, there is so many ways to do the technical stuff faster, cheaper, and more reliable.
Totally agree with you. I have this issue all the time. Well, this is not. I'm sure not you, not me. We are not only the only one in this situation, but I have this issue all the time. We need to write it better. We need to think it more. We need to. No. Thanks God we have someone invented the MVP as a term and approach, iterations as approach. I learned this from technical teams, and I'm, by the way, implementing this in operational management. In a company several months ago. So the guys still today basically are not taking a big look on analytics, if to be honest. And what I did, I started just to gather the analytics. And with using macros in Excel, build some small reports by clicking to see whatever. What was in one meeting I showed like, guys, this is the report, some general information. I will share this report with you. And I did it once, did it second time, without putting too big accent on this. And in the team that I'm consulting, there's sometimes I'm feeling that not everyone is happy with me consulting because sometimes I'm overpassing my consultancy duties and I start to involve myself much more that it's requested sometimes. And they are like, why you are doing this analytics? It's nothing. We don't have any kind of result from this analytics. It's like, listen, this is the MVP stage. I'm just getting you taught with analytics, with the reports itself. It's the MVP. I know and I see that in 2, 3, 6 months, we'll come back and this analytics will look totally different. And we had an issue once with some reports, and we came back to those analytic reports I was making. Reports, I mean, for some specific merchant, and it helped us. And then I said, like, look, we now passed from the MVP stage to another stage. So this approach in technical team in taught me how to increase my efficiency as a manager, not for technical team, but at the same time, it gave me once again the once again I became sure that the MVP stage or other stages can or incremental planning is very important for a technical team, and if a CTO or tech managers they cannot work under this logic, then the company will spend a lot of money without without getting a product done. So the definition will done will be expanded. Um, Time to market will be unlimited, and at the end we'll have a great code, we'll have a great product, but the product will need be not on the market, and nobody will see it. Um, and I was thinking that we spoke about the culture, but if to come back to the roots of our topic today, which is uh, building high performance tech team, a tech team cannot survive without a product management. So product management team is very important for IT company. And I know approaches when CPO are leading technical teams, and I know approaches when CPO product teams and technical teams are totally separated. And now comes the question of what was first, the chicken or the egg. Can a product manager, a CPO, manage a technical team? Does the technical team it's important for technical team to be a part of product team or under a product team, or it has to be two separate entities?
That's a simple question. The tech was first because there are a lot of startups, companies who actually discovered that they have a business model by just having the technical team. And it's really important for the scaling to have the product branch, like a product vision, how we're solving the client's needs, how we're approaching. But in the end of the day, I rarely see right now the businesses who operate in not in digital space. Like if you take a look, any piece of the fintech software is actually digital. Like maybe the last piece is terminals and the cards, but in the end of the day, everything is happening online. So my go-to answer is that you might have the technical team and you have the business model and have a solution, but I haven't seen the cases when you don't have the technical team, but you have a business model and the business.
Yes, I agree with you. Technical was first. A technical team has to be a part of product team or separate.
It's a cultural thing because once again, there is a gray line, and it's not really always visible when the product is ending the team. I'm a big fan of the tested criterias by Karl Popper, and it's kind of as a physics. That's why the current science is so cool and so evolved for 200 years. But because as a humanity, we came up with a really nice framework how to understand is it the science or not. Because it's not the question of doing the science, it's a question of not doing the things which are not the science, like alchemy. It's not a science. There is nothing to connect it with the science. And the approach is pretty straightforward. Can we build the case which is opposing our statement? Like um, Jesus was walking on the water. It's not a science because we cannot build the case when someone is taking Jesus and say, go by this river, because there is no Jesus and we cannot do this approach. And it's kind of applies for the science because if we would like to measure the speed of the light in vacuum, we can build the vacuum, we can build a light detector, we can do the beam of the light and calculate the speed. So the same I think goes into the position profiles and high performance technical teams. You know what exactly will not happen if this person doesn't exist. like this position in the company doesn't exist. If you don't have, let's say, we don't have engineers, we understand that the code is not updated, the updates are not pushed to the production, new features are not developed, the bugs are not fixed, I don't know, certain information is not extracted from the platform and given to other departments, which is really harder to with the tested criteria with the product team, because what will not happen if they don't work? Are we not going to get the documentation? Not really. Sometimes business analytics team from the technical
Yes.
team is writing the documentation. Do they have accountability, financial numbers or financial insights? In certain companies, yes, but certain not. So imagine yourself being a product guy who is not writing the documentation, who is not doing market research, who is not putting the skin in the game if the feature is not generating the margin. So you can say, guys, I really think that this feature is required for the business. Then the budget is burned, the team developed, it's delivered to the market, and no one is using this feature. So this person doesn't have any calculatable or tested criteria accountability, which is kind of different with the technical team, because if your production doesn't work, if the feature is not delivered in time, if it doesn't fulfill the business requirements from BA or QA, everyone knows that. That's why developers got fired. That's why CTOs got changed. And it's much, much harder for the product team. I'm not underestimating or under diminishing the needs of the product guys. The best, coolest results that I've seen on the market is because there is a person who is playing this role by understanding what is required the business and pushing the company or the platform to follow this way. Like maybe not a fintech example, but it's pretty cool example by Instagram. Before the Instagram, there was a project which is called Foursquare. Unfortunately, it was closed this December. But do you know which one was the first, the Instagram or Foursquare?
I think for Square FF.
Yes. So Foursquare was first, and then Instagram, they kind of created something similar to Foursquare. So you have a place, you can select the place and attach the image. So they did the copycat of the Foursquare. And what do you think was the turning moment for Instagram to become this multi-billion business and acquired by Facebook? Someone from the product team said, let's detach the location for the image. So you can post the image without the location, because before that it was just the copy of the Foursquare. So you have a location and then you're attaching an image to the location. The moment someone understood that you can actually post images as your feed without connection to the location, they pivoted the product, and they become the multi-million company because of this single decision. So that's an importance of the product vision.
So I know companies where they had a problem. The technical team didn't get the company's values. The technical team was not fully involved in regulatory compliance, and this is the case for a bank. Technical team has had no ability to understand the final role of a business of business model. And the technical team, they had a very powerful CTO, but the CTO was more a technical guy than a business approach guy. And then it was there was a decision when technical team and the CTO was basically under the CPO, and the need was for transmitting to the team what means, what are the regulatory requests, compliance requests, because it was crucial for that company. So sometimes it can work in a different
But
thing.
then it brings the question from my side, how the CPO can ensure that technology is doing correct decisions.
Cannot.
And that's a case with the disclosure. Like that's a good case, because I remember the bank in United States which were fined for 50 million USDs because they misconfigured the Amazon bucket with the old KYC documents. So basically, the bank were collecting the KYC documents during onboarding, and this bucket was public. So in this case, that's a metrics. I'm not saying that this like dichotomy, you cannot choose one or another. But that's two things that you need to keep in a row as a metric structure. You need to make sure that the technical team is knowledgeable enough as a technology and following specific process with the quality gates, quality control, a lot of things which are purely technical, but also they facilitate in this business process. Is there people who can be named as CPO but also has a literacy in technology to come and say, guys, if we're using a bucket, please make sure that we properly like ensuring the security or we're testing. But that's a good question to raise.
It's simple. You just have to have chief information officer, because chief information officer, this is his duty. The case you mentioned with the bucket with public, it's like a classical why chief information officer it's needed in a company. Depends on the request. If you are a highly strictly regulated entity where not the technology is first but a regulation is first, because you are, for example, in a bank in Romania or a bank in Germany, and you know, for example, that BaFin will come to you and ask, you sometimes will minimize the importance of a technology or minimize the importance of having as a cornerstone the technology. Because again, depends on cases. And today it can be like this, tomorrow it can be different. But what's very, very important thing is, and one of the last thing that I want to mention for our topic today is how to make your team, technical team, to be in line with regulations and mostly in line with innovations. Because I know teams that are super professional. I mean, they're writing perfect code. They can do like, I don't know, no downtime, how load like it's nothing. But they got relaxed. They do not provide any innovations, and for that company, this is a problem. How we can assure that the technical team will provide innovations all the time?
But I will doubt here because, in my experience, you cannot actually have in the same bucket two things like no downtime, perfect code, and no innovations. Because no downtime, perfect code means constant innovation. Technology is moving. You are shifting the cloud infrastructure, certain things coming up in place. Like even with the DORA, you might have a specific process, but then regulator comes and say that you need to be compliant with certain things. So in this case, I would opt two things. Rather, they perceived as someone who is having no downtime and the code is good because they translate, another part doesn't work. Or it's not really true. There is certain innovation, but they don't have enough input. Because one of the cases that I had, I've been working with the company and I've been doing the change management for their team. And the team which was supporting the platform, like stability and reliability, they said that in the previous period, they never had any instability. So the platform is 100 uptime, everything is fine. And then this team left. So it was replaced with other process, etc., etc. And while digging through the transition over the documents, we find out that internally they had downtimes, but they just didn't disclose it. And there was a team who was quickly fixing, quickly making sure that the platform is stable. There were certain hiccups. They were fixing even manually certain stuff, but it was communicated like no downtime. So, as a technology person, I haven't seen, if you are saying no appetite for innovation and technology excellence, like let's put it this way, they're not coming discombined. Like you are have to be together. If you are technology excellence, your hunger for innovation, because that's the way how you can fulfill your technology innovation. So that's kind of my view.
The case of a company I mentioned is that that team was hired for solving some critical issues, and the team came very motivated at the beginning, and they solved all the KPIs. So the KPIs were set perfectly good, milestones perfectly good. They achieved all the milestones, and then they stopped. I mean, of course, exist innovations like continuous auto testing writing. course. It's also an innovation. But I'm speaking more about big innovations like, I don't know, let's create okay, with high load we are good, with downtime we are good or acceptable good. Let's maybe continuous release deployment process implement. I'm telling like this. They said like for us it's okay to have once in 2 weeks release without continuous
That's a red
deployment.
flag for me. That's a first red flag that the team is not technically capable, because the really, like, being lazy engineer, it means that you have the pipeline which you can click and release the code. If the team doesn't have continuous deployment, continuous integration, it's not a technical excellence. They may be critical issue solvers, like someone as an expert, in Slavic speaking languages, there is a saying: the expert is coming and just I don't know, pushing some button or bidding somewhere and everything works. But it doesn't mean that it's technology excellence. So it's like a crisis manager. So you can take a look on this as an engineer who can find and fix the critical bug. But technical excellence, it meaning that you can set up the process which is working without you. And that's most controversial thing, because engineers, they kind of sometimes afraid that they will be fired, or the position will be reduced if they build the really good technical process. It's not reliant on them. And it's kind of controversial because in practice, if you are able to build excellent technical processes, you will be always in demand, even within one company. And there is a quite a big chance that your position will be reduced if you're burning hours every 2 weeks by deploying everything in manual with the custom written scripts that no one can support, because at some point the company will understand that it's done wrong.
This is how Igor from simple developer got to be a strong CTO. He understood this in the right time. Let's resume the discussion we have. So, for building a high performance technical team in a fintech company, you need first clear definition of roles and responsibilities, position profiles, job descriptions, all this, and clear understanding of reviews of positions and review and increasing of salary, increasing of levels, and so on.
Career path.
Career path. A big hello to HR teams. By sure they will love such kind of things. Second, we need to keep active. We need to make our team, the technical team, to be innovative, to acknowledge and to be aware about regulations and compliance, and to apply them into the work. And third,
the business orientation, because being compliant, being by regulators and following all the required rules for PCI DSS compliance, it doesn't mean that you're innovate and then you're efficient with the business model. So I think in this case, if you would like to grow, not just horizontally as a technical person, but as a business person, you need to understand business models, how they implement it, what is important there. So business understanding is a key, and kind of strategical thinking, business understanding and strategical thinking.
because if you'll not think about the business will die and you'll basically not get a salary.
That's maybe 2-3 steps thinking, but it's really important. Like I used to think as an engineer, like if I'm going to do something which is not efficient, will affect the company where I'm working, and if yes, is my position in struggle? So that's kind of the reason in where when I was always trying to do my best, because it will affect the company where I'm working in, and it will affect in a good way.
And as usually at the end with the books, I will come today. I don't know. I don't remember if I recommended this book once or not. But if I did this, I apologize. I will recommend it once again because I really love this book. It's not from the Fintech, but it's about an example of how a non-technical guy reinvented the entire automotive industry in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Because when we were having this discussion today, unfortunately, we don't have so much time, but I was ready to mention the fact that the topic was about who was first, product or technical. Of course, technical was first. And my next question in my mind was, can a product manager to lead a technical team? Because, for example, nowadays, the Ministry of Defense most often are not people from the military.
It's
Are
managerial positions.
civils,
Yeah.
yes. So I was thinking, can this approach also be implemented in the tech team? But I left this topic because it can create a lot of ramifications for our discussion. But Iacocca, the guy, he's legendary. He's a legend for in automotive industry. He's not technical. He's an engineer by formation, but never worked 5 days as an engineer. He arrived at Ford Motor Company in 45, 46. 3 days worked or 4 days worked as an engineer. He said like no. He moved to marketing. Marketing team, marketing department was just created, and he was just somewhere propulsated to a dealer, into a region, into a state in the United States, far away, and so on. Middle of 70s, he was the CEO of a company because he invented Mustang, he reinvented Ford, and then, well, he had a conflict with Henry Ford II. He left the position of CEO. He was basically at the pension already. He was like, okay, I'm retired. And Chrysler came to him, said like, we need your help, because Chrysler was totally down. And he reinvented Chrysler. He reinvented Chrysler. I honestly recommend this book for several reasons. First, this is an example when a non-technical guy can lead technical companies. Okay, there was like hard industry, totally different, but a lot of similarities. Second, this is how the perception, understanding of a technical processes, which Iacocca had, help him to build and transform. These things are very, very important. So product owners, CPO, read these books. And the most important, CEOs, or those who want to be a CEO, read this book. It's absolutely amazing book. It gives you the open up the entire world, how you can manage companies and to learn from the failures.
Cool. Thank you for this book. And mine today I will be quite short. It's from Itzhak Adizes, since we're talking about the managers. So I think leading the leaders, I think that's really important. And today we talk a little bit like this topic, the types of the managers. So I really recommend this book. And thank you for today discussion. It was really heavy, but I think pretty deep into insights and understanding what should be done with the teams.
And we honestly tried to make this conversation less than an hour. I think we are very close to an hour, but we honestly tried. Thanks, Igor. It was a pleasure and was absolutely a great discussion. Have a nice days, and please subscribe to our channel, write comments, share the videos.
Thank you so much for reviewing our episode and see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye bye.